Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 195 of the RRBG Podcast. The RRBG Podcast is a proud member of the Podbelly Network. Go to podbelly.com to check out the list of amazing shows that we got going on, including Robots for Eyes, and if you're into something a little more on the paranormal side, there's Paranormal Punchers. If you'd like to take a deep dive into the dark multiverse of Stephen King, there's a podcast for that as well. Tons of great shows, all about different topics. I'm sure you'll find something you'll love. Go to podbelly.com and support the network. This is the part where you'll usually skip the ads, but try not to skip it this time. Listen up. I have a little story for you. And it's about sheath underwear. For many years, I would just not wear any underwear, or when I did have underwear, it was boxers and boxer briefs. And, you know, when you buy the cheap store brands, you get it gets all bunched up. Sometimes the bulge kind of has this friction with your thighs and like it creates holes. It weakens the fabric. The elastic band around the waist starts warping. It's a nightmare. That's why for many years I was commando. But then as I get older, the boys start sagging a little bit more. I start sitting on them, which causes tremendous pain and probably leads to like being infertile. I've noticed that my pubic hair is all grayed out. I think that's from sitting on them and all the young discomfort that from years of crappy underwear from stores or not wearing underwear at all. But I gotta tell you, since sheath underwear became a part of my life, it has changed me for the better. No more sitting on the boys. No more random pains. The color in my pubic hair is coming back. I've gone from a grayed out salt and pepper type of situation to this luscious black mane. It's incredible. And I know what you're thinking. You're going to go to the website and you're going to see the product and you're going to say, wow, that's a little bit out of my budget. I get it. But you know what? You get what you pay for. You get what you pay for. This is quality material, super soft. It comes with this special pouch that you can put your boys in there. They also have ladies underwear. It's not just for men. There's ladies underwear. And if it is out of your budget, I'm here to help you out. I can get you 20% off. I know somebody over there. Use the promo code RRBG and save 20% on your purchase. So that's sheathunderwear.com. Go check them out and bring the color back into your pubes. This podcast is also brought to you by El Yucateco Hot Sauce. You know, I got to tell you, I've been eating a lot more Mexican food these days as I live in LA, and it's just inevitable at this point. So having a really good hot sauce at my disposal is kind of crucial. And my go-to right now is El Yucateco Hot Sauce. They are a staple. They come in so many different flavors. You can get the verde sauce with jalapenos, or you can get the habanero sauce. They have this special like black sauce, which is a special reserve sauce. I mean, for whatever level Scoville you can handle, I'm sure you can find yourself a sauce here. And if you go to shop Yucateco.com, use the promo code RRBG and you'll get 10% off of your purchase. This podcast is also brought to you by Saints Joints. Go to saintsjoints.com and check out all the awesome products they have there, including the new Book of Saints that comes with 4 packs of pre-roll joints. It's this incredible, lavish, luxurious looking gold foil stash box. The works. It's the best looking stash box I've seen. Make sure to go pick one up before they're all gone. And also check out the new hash infused pre-rolls. Don't forget, it's saintsjoints.com, and make sure you tell them that we sent you. In this episode, I talked to Wade Macneil. I caught him while he was on the road, moving from one side of the country to the other in Canada. We talk a little bit about him working on the film Random Acts of Violence and creating the Slasher Man theme song. We talked about horror movies. We talked about video games. We talked about pro wrestling. And, of course, we talked about all his music in Alexisonfire, Gallows, and his new solo project, Doom's Children. It was a great time talking to him, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Make sure to follow him on social media, on Instagram at Wade Macneil, to keep up with all the projects. And please check out our Patreon page. Go to patreon.com/RRBG and help the podcast grow. Cheers. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the RRBG podcast. I'm here with Wade Macneil. How are you, brother?
Good, man. Hanging in there.
Hanging in there. You're telling me that you are moving across the country. What's going on? Where are you going?
Moving from Montreal back to Toronto right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think just like the restrictions keep getting more and more intense. And so I think I'm headed back like to where I grew up to spend a little bit more time around my family and not just be sitting alone in my spot ordering Uber Eats and playing guitar.
Oh, I hear you. And it's funny. I just saw this morning when I woke up, the Trudeau mentioned some stuff about tightening stuff up. So, I mean, it's like exact perfect timing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, it's the problem isn't lessening, and so I think, I don't know. It's get back into the family zone a little bit.
Yeah. The isolation can be super damaging. I was going to ask you about that because I know that, you've had everybody's struggling with the pandemic. Everybody's mental health is hurting. But you in particular, you've had, some issues in the past with your demons and whatnot. And I wanted to see how you were hanging in there because of this whole thing. And it's good to hear that you're going to go be with some family because that's important, for the mental health.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. It's been strange because it's been happening for so long, right? So I think, at the beginning of COVID, I was really using it as an opportunity to do some stuff that I always put off doing. Like I've always wanted to try and write a book. I was doing that, like meditating a ton and being really healthy. And then just, as we hit maybe the 6-7 month part of it, I just slid into fuck this, I'm just going to get a pizza kind of zone for a couple months. And now I'm like, I don't know, maybe a combination of the both, where I'm just like, I don't know, it's still happening. I'm trying to take it easy on myself and, just trying to figure out a way to write some music over the internet. And I think all of everyone in kind of all my projects that I work on have become like semi-self-sufficient engineers. And so we're just like, like every musician I know now has like a recording setup at home. And we're just like all sharing demos and trying to stay creative and engaged through all of this.
Yeah. No, it's funny you mentioned that. It's something that I always I learned when I started my band like 10 years ago, that it's so important to have your own setup at home just so you can do pre-production, and writing is a lot easier when you can record and then work on it from there. And the majority of the musicians that I knew at the time never had that. They would just go to a studio, and it took this to get everybody on that train of like, all right, you should have your own setup so you can work. I think it's good. I mean, the pandemic sucks, but that part of it's good.
No, but I mean, but there are these benefits like that like have kind of come out of it. It's I know there's a lot of my buddies, and like myself included, that I've spent so much time working on music, and it's a weird thing to know where to draw the line because I really love my job. I'm really passionate about it, and like music is the thing that like gets me out of bed in the morning, and so it's kind of easy to go overboard. And I know a lot of people that have this forced hiatus from music has been really, really good for their mental health, and just kind of, just stepping out of the fucking freak bubble for a second. And I don't know, just like kind of thawing out from either touring all the time or just like working nonstop and being a little bit healthier.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such an interesting thing that, I know there are a group of the musicians that are suffering, and, that they can't take it. Like, I need to get back out there. And, but it's true what you say. It's important sometimes to take a step back and spend some time with your family, get yourself adjusted, get healthy, because it's easy to fall into, habits on the road, shitty eating habits or not exercising regularly, or even, drugs and alcohol, which are a huge problem on the road all the time. Because, people just come up to you at all times. Like, hey, man, you want to smoke? Or, hey, you want this? And it's like, it's hard. It's a difficult journey on the road. And sometimes you need it. And it's interesting to see which people are taking this opportunity to grow and become better, and which group of people are suffering and like falling down a downward spiral because of this. Like, I see the numbers, like alcohol sales are up and cigarette sales are up. And, I read about that, the cigarette thing, like, cigarette consumption had started declining. And then once the pandemic hit, now it's back up. Everybody's like, oh, fuck it, I got to smoke. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, man, it's, I don't know. It's like, it's a wild time. Like, and, certainly don't fault anybody for like doing that stuff to try and make themselves feel all right. But yeah, it's a difficult time to figure out how you can feel all right.
Yeah. Yep. You yourself, I mean, you've been a little busy. I saw that you were working on Slasher Man. You had that, the theme song remix video came out not too long ago, where you're performing all the instruments and all of that. So, how did that come about? Like how did you get involved with that project?
Well, the kind of the director of Random Acts of Violence, Jay Baruchel, is pretty much a person that kind of opened the door for film composing to me.
Okay.
He's like a fan of Alexisonfire, and he reached out and said he'd seen us play in Montreal a few times, and just hit me up and said, like, if you're ever in the city, you want to watch a hockey game, let me know.
Nice.
And so, like the next time I was in Montreal, I assumed I'm going to this, like, because he's like a famous actor. I was like, oh shit, like I'm gonna go see this. I'm gonna go see a Habs game from the box. And then I like went, and like knowing Jay, that's a really funny thing to think about now. I like went to his house. We watched it on TV and like ordered a pizza. We just like, he's like a really chill guy. Like we became buddies, and so when the next film he was working on was Goon: Last of the Enforcers, and he asked me to create some music for that. And my role in that group, from like maybe doing a song for like a fight sequence to doing a music for a bunch of the kind of in-arena stuff, and then even past that. So the longer they kind of got into the making of that film, the more my role as a composer grew with that film. And then we finished that. Jay just said to me, I want you to be the guy that scores all my movies.
That's awesome.
And we've been, so this is the next thing that we're able to work on. And I mean, films are such a labor of love and such a like long process that, from the time he sent me the script for this film to it coming out was probably a good 4 years. And I mean, it's probably something that's a decade of his life, even from the inception of the idea.
Yeah.
And so, it was really cool. I love the way the film turned out. Making music like for a director like Jay that really loves punk and hardcore and like folk and weird outsider music. He's a really great person to work with because he wants you to take risks. I like music that's abrasive. And it's not always the case that usually on certain projects that I've worked on, if I make something that sounds really fucked, usually the director's like, maybe we'll back it up a bit. And he's just like, he's always like, this is it. And so it's really cool that, he was encouraging to push it in a bleaker, harsher direction. And yeah, I think musically the film turned out really cool, and just the film itself. There's so many things that go into a film coming out cohesive and cool. And it was everything. I don't know. It's a special film, I think.
For sure, man. And it's true what you say, the labor of love thing. A lot of people don't take that into consideration. They see a movie and they're like, oh, these people made a movie and they had a bunch of money and, and there it is. It's like, what if you spend, 4 years of your life or like you said, maybe even a decade and, you finally get it done and you put it out and nobody watches it because, there isn't that giant like marketing machine behind it because it's not a Sony movie or a Warner Brothers movie. It's an indie film, so you kind of have to work hard to get it out there to people, and it's weird to see, and it's a lit. Yeah.
And it's like, and I think also, because it is such a huge undertaking, like it's these millions of decisions, and just to keep that headed towards the idea of what you actually want to make, not compromising too much or trying to fix these problems and staying on the same page, is a really difficult thing to do because there's so many people involved, right? Yeah. I think before working on any films, I always just like, I'd see a film that was like brutal, and I'd watch, I'd be like, man, how do they fuck up Alien versus Predator?
Right.
And just I'm like, man, that should have been the best. But like having worked on a bunch of films now, like I know exactly how they fucked up Alien versus Predator. Like it's this fucking massive thing with so many people involved and so many differences of opinion, and so I think like the real exciting thing about Random Acts is that it's just like it kept getting closer to what Jay's vision of it was instead of further away from it. And that's like, that in itself is a success working on it.
For sure. And I really do like the fact that, he's making movies with abrasive music, like you said, because the standard usually you hear movie scores and for the most part it's, orchestrated. No, not that it's bad. It's great music. It's but it's very generic orchestrated sounds. And you would think, like, especially for like horror movies or something like that, you would want more kind of an abrasive thing. Like a couple people are doing it these days. Like you look at Mandy. Mandy was a good example of something that was a horror movie where the music was kind of, metal and aggressive, and like that. We need more of that. I think so. I'm glad that he's open to that, and I hope more directors get into that. Yeah,
me too. I mean, it's just. It's just especially with something stylistically like a horror film, like it lends itself to make something really unique and different. And you're creating these other worlds where all this stuff like exists in. And I think, if the films that we all connect with so much have these really, really unique and really out there like musical motifs and concepts, and it can be such an incredibly, it's such an important part of it. Like, I mean, for fuck's sake, like Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross were able to make a movie about Facebook interesting with their score.
Right. Yeah.
And there's just, I mean, and I think, it's difficult to take creative risks for a lot of people. And so, yeah, I don't know. Hopefully I get to continue to work with writers and directors that want to take those risks. 'Cause that's when stuff really gets pushed forward and something really cool can happen.
Is there a director that you would like, that you have the fantasy kind of dream to work with to score a movie for?
Question? Tough question.
I mean, obviously, we'll limit it to people who are alive, because obviously there's a lot of, older directors that would be great, but they're not around, so.
There's been a few things where John Carpenter has collaborated with other musicians.
Yeah.
Like on Halloween 3, it's not just entirely him. Like I think it's Howarth, and I always liked John Carpenter's scores are incredible, and they're just like they're so brooding and simplistic. But there's some really interesting moments where he's like collaborated with other people, like I think Halloween 3, and like there's a few other things that he's worked on, and I think that would be. I mean, I don't know. I think he's, especially for horror, like horror scores, like he kind of wrote the blueprint on it.
Yeah.
So I mean, that would be a dream for me to, because primarily I consider myself a guitar player. So I think that would be the dream, like being able to collaborate with him, where he's doing the spooky keys and I'm doing the spooky shredding on the guitar.
Yeah, that'd be great. I know that you've done some acting. Is that something you want to pursue to like do more of, or?
I don't think I've ever been, like I've filmed a lot of music videos. I've played a lot of shows. I've done a lot of interviews, but I don't think anything has stressed me out as much as acting in that film. It's, and I think kind of that being said, I think I kind of want to do it again as a result of that. I like pushing myself to try stuff that makes me a little uncomfortable.
I can imagine it being stressful, man, because you got to, it's hard to be yourself. And I imagine it's got to be even harder to put yourself aside and just be someone else. I always say that some of the like hardcore actors like Tom Hanks or something like that, those people don't exist. Like there is no Tom Hanks. Like that guy has to have some kind of something broken in his brain to be able to, separate himself to so many different roles like that, Yeah,
that's an interesting way of looking at it for sure. Yeah, it was tough. I mean, like, it wasn't the hugest stretch for me. I was like playing a radio host in the film, a job I did for like 5 years. So it wasn't exactly like out on the hugest limb, but yeah, I mean, certainly like I did the scene with like Jesse Williams, who's a really excellent actor and just hard to. Yeah, I don't know. It was a real challenge and something I really enjoyed, and yeah, I don't know. I'm like,
you're kind of breaking up right now, by the way.
Kenny, and so I'm bugging them, making it. Can you hear me now?
Kinda, yeah.
So
you're driving. Yeah, there we go. You said you're driving through Letterkenny?
No, I said I'm buds with a few of those guys that are on Letterkenny.
Oh, okay.
So I feel like I'm bugging them to just like write me onto the show as a biker or something.
Dude, that would be great. I just recently actually started watching that because it popped up on Hulu, and I had a bunch of friends tell me to watch it, and I like fell in love. I know it's in Canada, but that whole neighborhood and the way that they act really reminds me of the neighborhood that I kind of grew up with in Florida. There's a Homestead, Florida, and it's a lot of farmland, a lot of country guys, and every character on that show, I feel like I have a friend that is from that. That group. It's insane. Like it really connected with me in that sense. And it's it's really well written and intelligent. Like the dialogue is very intelligent. I thought it was going to be kind of dopey like rednecks, but no, they're all super well spoken, and yeah, I learned words on that show, which I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's what's hilarious about it. It's just like, yeah, I mean, you watch it and everyone's like, fuck, you like, I know these people. We all know these people. Like, these are like, that's my cousin. Or like, oh, it makes you cringe, but it's also like, it's very hilarious. I don't know. So, fingers crossed that I pop up on that.
That would be cool. I'll have here written down, what's your favorite horror franchise while you were growing up, and who's the best slasher / villain for you?
I think my favorite one was Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay.
It really, I think it's in Dream Warriors. There's this one where Freddy's like got the girl's, I'm not sure if it's a girl or a guy, like got her veins on his claws, and he's like making her dance like a marionette. I saw that one when I was pretty young, and I feel that, you know, you see something really fucks with you. I think that was it. And so, yeah, I really liked those films. And yeah, I think I always liked that he was like a bit like goofy, or it was like a bit jokey.
Yeah. It was a funny series. I mean, there's obviously crazy gore and all that, but he was hilarious.
Yeah, so I think I like that. I think that was kind of my favorite. And although I will tell you, I watched Freddy versus Jason like a couple of months ago, and the thing that I totally forgotten is Freddy Krueger says bitch all the time. Like, he calls everybody bitch. It's just like, I don't know, like maybe through the lens of 2020, or like fucking just being older, I'm just like, weird creative choice. Yeah.
I don't know where they went.
Putting that together, being like, all right, he's a janitor. He did some weird stuff to kids, and he got burned alive. He's got claws for hands. Wears a fedora. He's in your dreams, but also he calls everybody bitch all the time.
Yeah.
Weird vibe.
Yeah, that's one of those choices that I think about, like, what was going on in that like table read? Like, nobody said anything. Like, I think there's one too many bitch in this script. Can we cut it down a couple?
Yeah, or it's the complete opposite of that. And someone was like, you know, it'd be really interesting if this guy just add bitch to like every line, or at least every other line. Could you try that for me, Robert Englund?
Yeah. I mean, I always loved Freddy growing up. I mean, I was that kid in school with the you know, the glove with the knives and the, you know, but I loved all of them. You know, I have an old, you know, I think from when I was like 6 or 7, drawing of Freddy versus Jason. So that was like a fantasy film for me that when it finally happened, I was kind of disappointed. Like, this is weird. Like, it's not bad. It's just like, this isn't really what I wanted, but okay. I don't know. But for me, it was always, I think my favorite was Hellraiser. Hellraiser really, really messed me up as a kid. Like, that was
it's like, intense. I rewatched the first one not that long ago, and it's horrifying.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Like, it's so dark, like with all the like weird kind of like stuff with his brother at the beginning about like him pushing the limits of BDSM and going to Southeast Asia and shit. You're like, what the fuck is this? It's really dark, and it's still really good.
Do you think that there is? I mean, there has to be. I'm just trying to be the pseudo psychologist here and pretend like I know what I'm talking about. But I feel like there is anybody that grows up loving horror movies also kind of grows up loving metal and like crazy music, like aggressive music. Is that? Do you think that's something that gets?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying. Do you think that's something that happens because we get exposed to this, or there's just certain people find an affinity to that stuff?
You know, I think there's definitely a crossover. Like, you know, I mean, you know, in some of those films, like, you know, like Motorhead is in Hellraiser 4, I think. And, you know, there's some kind of like, you know, like there's the punks in Return of the Living Dead. And I think there's like some kind of like crossover stuff with that, but maybe it's just the type of people that gravitate towards it. You know, there's a similar feeling of like otherness or like this isn't for everybody, and I really like it. That is the same feeling about something like metal or horror, and so I
that makes
think
sense.
something about just being like liking the idea of being shocked or like frightened or music that's just like harsh or something like that. It's just I think the people that really gravitate towards it, like it makes you feel better or something, or makes you feel more normal, or I don't know.
I guess it's like a matter of.
I don't want to go too deep down the psych rabbit hole. I haven't figured it out exactly yet, but they definitely go hand in hand for sure.
Yeah, I think you were kind of hitting it on the head there with it makes you people who feel like outsiders, it makes you not feel alone, I guess. If you have like a weird thought and then you see it on a movie, you're like, oh, okay, I'm not crazy. Somebody else feels this way too. So I guess that could be it.
I'm trying to think of the name of the band. I went to go see, I was playing a show with Gallows in Chicago, and do you know that band Cavill?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they came to our show, and then they were like, "Hey, we're playing at the Empty Bottle later tonight. You guys want to come down?" And so their show was later. We went down. I can't remember the name of the band that was opening for them. And the singer, I remember the singer saying, "This song's dedicated to anyone who's ever dreamed of killing somebody." And I was like looking around the Empty Bottle in Chicago, and there's just like all these fucking long-haired Escher guys like nodding, like that thing you said about having a weird thought. And I was like, "What the? Okay,
yeah.
You guys are playing to your people right now."
Yeah,
that's for sure.
That's one of those moments where you look around, like you said, look around, and then like kind of clench up, like, all right, now keep an eye on these people. Make sure they don't turn around, start looking at me all at once. Like,
I bumped into on my way in, nodding his head. Maybe I'll get a beer and stand in the back.
Yeah, right. You mentioned the word psych, and as I was writing notes for you, I saw that you're working on a possible solo album / psych album. Can you tell me anything about that?
Yeah, man, it's all done. It's I guess like ready to be mastered now. The art's almost finished, and I've decided I don't want to put out a solo record on my own name, so I'm going to call it Doom's Children.
Doom's Children, okay.
Which I think is incredible that there hasn't been a band called Doom's Children, and that it is now my band name. You would think that would exist. Yeah, that's a cool name. I like it. So yeah, it's like I don't know. I like over the last couple of years just kind of been in a pretty deep Allman Brothers Grateful Dead zone, and I wanted to do something like a project that I could go out and be kind of like looser and more jammy, and just kind of go off on a bit of a tangent. And so yeah, that's definitely what this is. And hopefully the first song will be out, first single will be out in March.
Nice. Okay. Is it on a label, or are you just putting it out yourself?
Yeah, it's going to come out on Dynalone Records, who put out the random Acs of Violence soundtrack. And it's like run by like everybody that like works with Alexis, and it's like a label that got started to kind of like for us all to just kind of do everything together.
Nice. That's cool. That's awesome. I'm looking forward to it, man. You mentioned Alexis. How many people throughout the years have called it Alex is on fire?
Yeah, I mean, many people as they continue to do. But I mean, the early 2000s were a weird time for, putting periods in your band name, uh, just putting a bunch of words together in your band name. So, I mean, we kind of brought that on ourselves by making it all one word. So
Yeah.
I don't mind explaining it to people.
Nice. I got to be honest with you, man. A lot of people, they tend to be a little fake if you get an opportunity to talk to somebody from a band. I'm not going to be a faker here. Like I recently got into Alexisonfire. Like I got into, I got it. Huh?
Better late than never, man.
Yeah, for sure. Like I had heard of you guys forever, and I had, I've seen Dallas's solo stuff, and I knew you guys were there. But when I was younger, when you guys were like at the peak, I was doing something else. I think I was doing my own music and kind of just focusing on something else as opposed to listening to bands, and then like the time just passed me completely. And then years later, you guys put out Familiar Drugs, and I was like, you know what, let me check it out. And I sat there and I listened to it. I'm like, what the fuck have I been doing with my time? Like, why have I been sleeping on this? What's wrong with me? But
that's been a real trip in terms of like, I guess like the band's just kind of career and trajectory. Like, cause we didn't play for like 6 years or something.
mm-hmm.
And then kind of found our way back to doing it again, and are playing more and more, and eventually, putting out that new music like a few summers ago, and it's like the crazy thing is like the show's bigger than they've ever been, and I think that's in part to too like people that may have never seen it in the first place, and I don't know, it's a trip like. We're coming up on like next year will be like the 20-year anniversary of our first record.
Wow.
Which fucking feels really weird, but luckily we all made that record when we were in high school. So
I was gonna say you were like what, 16? Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow. That's
Just
crazy.
turned 17, yeah. So it's a real trip having that come up, but also like it feels good that we're working on music that we like still love, and honestly, man, like quite simply that nobody died, and the fact that we're still all friends and we're still like get to be creative together is it's kind of mind blowing to me, honestly.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's true. A lot of the bands that started around that time by now have lost a member, unfortunately, or have gotten into fights and, they don't talk. But it's cool that you guys are still friends and everybody's still around. I gotta say, man, I remember hearing Familiar Drugs and thinking this doesn't sound like the one or two songs I had heard, because you guys had more of a faster pace kind of. I don't want to call it emo, but just, they had the emotional singing to it and everything. And Familiar Drugs felt more like what I had been listening to recently. I'm a little bit more like Red Fang, a little more, Mastodon-y, kind of sludgy vibe to it. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. And then I watched the performance you guys did at that house, the Trumbo House, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And that's when I sat and watched the whole set, and I'm like, wow, so many really good songs. What am I doing? And started going back into the catalog and, falling in love with the band. So it's really cool. Do you guys planning on making more music? Is there more of that on the way in the future?
I mean, we've been like, when we wrote those songs, we wrote a bunch of other songs that just kind of didn't get finished, like with, Dal going back on the road to City Color, and our drummer plays with Billy Talent as well, and it's kind of life catching back up with everybody. But there's like a ton more ideas, and they'll definitely like 100. I don't know like exactly when or like what it'll exactly look like, but I can confidently say like 100% there will be more new stuff.
Nice. That's good. Because I'm now I'm a fan, and now I want more. What about your other projects like Gallows and Black Lungs? Is that something that you're working on as well? Or?
Gallows were supposed to go on tour in Europe last August, and we were talking about like maybe me sticking around afterwards and like working on at least writing stuff for a 7-inch or an EP or doing something. But COVID had different plans for last year.
Yeah,
that exact same tour is booked for this August, and it's feeling less likely by the second that's going to happen.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But I mean, definitely. I think there'll definitely be more from that band for sure. Black Lungs is just kind of me fucking around. So we'll decide how much I want to fuck around in the coming years. Yeah, I think like pretty much all of the projects that I'm involved with, like Gallows, Alexis, and then this Dude's Children stuff that I'm excited for people to hear. Yeah, like everything is like rolling with all those projects, and like there'll be more Alexis shows, there'll be more Alexis music, there'll be more Gallows shows, there'll be more Gallows music, and I don't know, it's a cool place to be at, like for me, music wise, because I don't know, they're both very different, and they inspire me in different ways, and it's it's cool to like bring that stuff from the one project to the other, and yeah, for sure.
Well, that's good because I see that you're busy musically, and I know that you've had in the past issues with substances and everything, and I know that kind of personality, you always have to find something to do to keep your mind off of it, right? At least that's for me. That's the case. Like when I was having struggles with it, it was like, all right, well, I need to do this so I don't think about doing that, and doing a lot of music projects, it can keep you busy, but also. For me anyway, it feels like it starts, melding into each other, and it's hard to keep them all separated. But there is, I would go into a different thing like video games. And I noticed in the video for Slasher Man, there's like a golden axe. So like, are you a gamer? Is that something you're into? Like, do you have any other hobbies outside of music to keep your mind occupied?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a gamer. Like, I did some I ended up doing a ton of music for Far Cry 5.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And that was kind of me being like, I got asked to do something for it. I was like, fuck, man, better start playing video games again to try and figure out what I'm doing here. And so, yeah, I kind of like jumped back in about maybe 5 years ago, and I really like it. I've been playing this game called Blasphemous.
Blasphemous,
recently,
okay.
Which is really cool. Really kind of like side-scrolling, old school like Double Dragon type playing, but you're just in some dystopic religious future worlds, and the graphics are cool, the music's really cool, and so that's been taking some of my time up. Outside of that, I like riding motorcycles.
Nice.
And COVID has been a wonderful thing for being a biker. Usually the one thing I can count on is I'm away all summer playing festivals, and the season in Canada is, pretty short. October, it's already you're second guessing doing some of those chilly rides. So I was able to ride a ton this year. And that's definitely something I really love. And yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. I didn't know about the Far Cry thing. I mean, that's become one of my favorite series, I guess, of games. They're very, especially that Far Cry 5 had a very all too familiar culty, political, religious kind of storyline to it. So I was kind of really hooked on that one. But that's cool. That's cool. I did not know that. Now I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that.
Yeah, man, it's cool. Yeah, just like kind of, I've been very lucky in kind of like composing stuff. The one thing leads to another. And so, yeah, I met someone, Jason Eisner, who
oh, we lost you a little bit.
Worked on Goon 2, who ended up doing the series Dark Side of the Ring. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you. Dark Side of the Ring. Yeah, I love that show.
Yeah, so Jason worked on Goon. He did Dark Side. I worked on the music for that. And then he'd done some work with Ubisoft. And then, connected me with some friends of his over there. And then started working at Far Cry. And, like, everything's been kind of just, like, one person from a project I'm working on, I end up getting involved in the next project they're working on. And that's when I think I've been so lucky with just, like, the video games or films or TV shows that I've been able to work on. Because they're all people that kind of are familiar with the music I've made. People, and honestly, all people I've met on a personal level I like and, like,
nice.
Would hang with. And, yeah, that's a nice thing when you're working on something that's such a lengthy process, for sure.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about the Dark Side of the Ring. Are you a wrestling fan? Do you watch pro wrestling?
That show certainly turned me into one.
Right. Yeah, that's it's been such an interesting thing to take a deep dive into some of the darker aspects of the people that I grew up admiring as a kid. Like, oh, Macho Man, I love that guy. And you kind of hear the stories of what their life was like. And it's like, oh, okay. Never mind. I mean, I still like them, but there's a lot of, darkness in that world for sure.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. So, I mean, are you watching wrestling now? Are you a fan of what's happening now? Or are you just kind of like the old school stuff?
Yes, I've like fallen more in love with the old school stuff. Like, I was like kind of into it when I was a kid. Like, I don't know, yeah, like Hulk and like Macho Man, I guess like that kind of era of dudes. But yeah, what I think is what I've kind of learned from the show is more of those like more like the Bruiser Brodies and stuff like that, and kind of more like looking at older footage of like those guys going over to Japan and stuff like that, and that stuff's just really I don't know, it's really cool.
It's compelling stuff.
Rough too, it's wild.
Yeah, they're really tough on each other back in the day, man. Stan Hansen and Bruiser Brody, those dudes would lay it on you for sure.
Yeah, for real.
Well, that's awesome, dude. I like I said, I saw that you had worked on a little bit of the music for that, and I was like, wow, I wonder how far you go, because I started watching. I was watching as a kid, and then there was a period of time where I stopped caring. I think it was when I became like a teenager and like going into my 20s, where I was just more concerned about making music and sleeping with ladies. I stopped watching wrestling, but I've recently kind of gone back into it in the last few years, and now I'm going even as far as to the independent shows, because they have like this really crazy punk rock element to them. Like some of the shows out here in LA, it was all standing room. So these dudes they're running around and taking these giant dives off the top rope into the crowd. So it was like, I'm like, oh, I'm familiar with this. This is crowd surfing and, moshing basically. So it kind of hooked me into that. And then, in between matches, like they'll have a couple matches, 2 or 3 matches. And then they have an intermission where all the wrestlers are sitting around with their merch. And I'm like, this is exactly like a punk show. Everybody's trying to sell merch, T-shirts, and so it really hooked me in again. And I'm now like what they call a mark.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I mean, especially like I'm sure like similarly like those guys are touring on a circuit. Like I'm sure there's like, yeah, I mean that sounds like playing in a punk band.
Yeah. Yeah. Living out of a suitcase, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Well, hey, I'm going to let you go. I know you're on the road, and I really appreciate you taking time, even though you're on the road and busy, to have a conversation with, a stranger. But I really appreciate you taking the time, because it makes me appreciate what you do more. I'm looking forward to new music. I'm looking forward to the Doom's Children. It's very exciting. If anybody wants to keep tabs on what you're doing, what's the best way to do that? Instagram, Twitter?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Wade Macneil. And Twitter, I can't be fucked anymore, honestly. Just follow me on Instagram, and yeah, man, thanks for having me on, and I appreciate you keeping me company as I drive a small truck full of guitars and amps from Montreal to Toronto.
That's awesome. I'm glad I could do that. I know those drives suck, so I that's a lot of my friends, when I call them up at random, they're like, "Where are you driving to?" Because they know I'm calling to just talk for a couple, for like an hour to kill the time. Yeah. But yeah, again, I appreciate what you're doing. I'm gonna, I'm hoping that this pandemic shit kind of settles down and I can come out to see an Alexisonfire show, because I've never seen you guys live.
You know what? I mean, it's the world is gonna get back to normal eventually, and it's gonna feel so good to be at a show, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to just get in that crowd, feel that energy. There's nothing like it in the world. I've been telling people this all the time, that, there's no drug, there's no alcohol, there's nothing that feels like being at a show, especially if you're performing a show and getting the crowd singing back to you, or, just even feeling the music. There's just nothing like that, and that's why I've been concerned with a lot of musician friends of, in the mental health. Like, some people, like we said earlier, some people are taking it and doing good with it, but some people are hurting, because that's a thing, that's a drug that's missing, that you can't replace,
For sure.
Yeah. Well, hey man, drive safely, and we'll be in touch. Hopefully, when shows get announced and everything, I'll try and see if we can meet up and at least high five or something.
Sounds great, man. Take it easy.
All right, you too. Later.